guys, and welcome to a new YouTube video. In today's video we are going to work with jelly gouache. Wait, this way. Jelly gouache for the first time. I hope you guys are interested. But before we get into the video, I quickly wanted to say that I'm currently running a Kickstarter and I have a link in the description. If you are interested in cute bunnies, I'm currently trying to fund my own little bunny plush. So if you want to check it out, please do so. There's a link in the description. It's still running for 2 weeks. And if you want to get your own little bun by next year, let me know. Maybe support the Kickstarter or maybe share it with family and friends. Thank you so much, and let's get into the video. Before we're getting into this video, I just wanted to say that this is not only the first time I'm using jelly gouache, but the first time in general that I am using gouache. I'm an absolute beginner and obviously take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt because I'm not a professional in this medium. This is very much a first impression and also me trying to talk about my learning experience going through 4 different artworks that I have colored with jelly gouache. You will see all 4 artworks in the background. I'm coloring them and just gonna talk a little bit about my experience. 3 of these artworks have been drawn into my sketchbook, and the last artwork has been drawn on a bigger piece of paper and will be shown at the end. So when I wanted to try jelly gouache, I wanted to try them because of the aesthetic. They have been doing really well on social media, and especially on YouTube. I have seen thousands of videos. Okay, that's maybe a little bit too much. Quite a few videos of people trying this jelly gouache set. The reason why I picked it up was because I thought, okay, if I want to give gouache a try, why not start with this? It's very affordable and you are getting 18 colors for the price of, I think, around $30, which is a good price for the amount of paint you get. There's also gouache from other brands that come in tubes, but I haven't tried those. So all my experience is centered around the jelly gouache. I decided to first try and draw artworks in my sketchbook to see how the gouache is reacting. Gouache is awesome because what you can do with it is basically a medium that can be watered down and be used in a similar way as watercolor, but you can also layer it very thick and it gets super opaque, just like acrylics. Gouache is basically a interesting middle way to try the best of both worlds, both a little bit acrylic and also a little bit of watercolor. But it's also the hardest part of both mediums. I personally do believe that gouache is not a beginner tool, and I want to say if you want to try gouache, it will help you greatly if you already have experience in watercolors or acrylic paintings. I personally am a professional illustrator who does illustrations mainly with Copic markers traditionally or works digitally, so I don't have experience. Basically none. I think I have done like 2 watercolor artworks in my entire life. So this was something very new for me to get into. The hardest part to figure out was probably how much water to use together with the jelly gouache to get a nice consistent color on your paper. As said, watered down, the gouache will react similarly to watercolors and will look a little bit washed out. If you lay it on thicker, you will get a chalk-like consistency, but the gouache will be opaque. I personally would say you have to play around with this for quite a while to figure out what works best for you. In general, I would say rather go with less than more. I personally think it's always easier to layer something on top than starting out with a very thick layer of gouache. It is also important that you know if you start out with a thick layer of gouache, it can happen that if you layer more layers on top, that the paint can crack. If you move your paper and you have a really thick layer of gouache on top, it can crack and peel off your paper basically. Also, because the colors can be reactivated with water, you can't put on a thick layer of gouache and then afterwards take water to then mix in a different color without moving the already existing colors around. This is why I'm saying I would rather start out with less than more. I tried both and I definitely think it is easier to lay out your colors first and do a very watered down versions of your colors and then try to layer the gouache on top of that. This was a very steep learning curve and I think I got better with every artwork, but I also grew very frustrated in the beginning. I personally do believe that my inexperience with watercolors and acrylics in general worked very much against me here, especially because I do not even know enough about how to use a brush properly, which then translates to me making very wobbly lines half of the time. I also cannot recommend any of the brushes I'm using because I simply do not know which brand of brushes is good for using together with gouache. In that regard, I would highly recommend to seek out other artists on YouTube who maybe do know more about this medium in comparison to me. I just used brushes that I had at home and I deemed as good, but I am not sure if they are actually good. And to be honest, some of them worked fairly well, while others I tried once and I noticed instantly that they are not made for using together with gouache. When I was doing my artworks, I tried to use as many different colors from the gouache set as possible. You can see in my different artworks that the first one is basically black and white. The second one is more warm and pink tones. The third artwork is green and yellow, maybe more earthy tones with a bit of blue. And you will see for the last artwork, I tried to use a mixture of purple, blue and pink. I wanted to make sure that I try all the colors so I can give you guys a good feedback on how I think they perform, and honestly I think they are really, really good. I believe that if you figure out how to use this medium, it works really nicely and it makes beautiful colors. The colors when opaque are shining, they are really pretty, they are very bright, and I really need to say I kind of fell in love with it. It is a little bit different from what I'm used to with Copic markers. I think Copic markers tend to dry down a little bit more dull than these gouache colors do. So if that's what you like bright and very shining color, this is definitely something you can achieve with gouache. I do, however, also believe that not all colors are obviously necessary, but that's something you kinda have to go with when you buy a pre-built set. Jelly gouache is already a wet medium when you get it out of the package. So what is gonna happen with gouache is it is going to dry out over time. The jelly gouache set I bought has little containers that are sealed in the beginning, and after opening up there's no way of closing them again. You can close the lid of the entire box, but the small containers can't be closed anymore. Please remember that when you buy this set, that over time these colors will dry out. It's no problem though, because gouache can be reactivated with water. This is just a personal tidbit of mine, but I do not like the colors being dried out. They look super crusty, even the palette, and the initial aesthetic that you see in YouTubers' video where they show their whole palette, it kind of goes away after you see how nasty they look once they are dried. I personally think in the future I want to continue using gouache, but I will probably not go for a palette like this anymore, but try to buy other brands that also offer tubes. I personally feel I was wasting a lot of colors. So I rather would like to work with colors that come out of a tube, so I only get the amount that I need for the artwork I'm working on. With my last artwork, I really wanted to show that I can improve in this, and I wanted to show that I don't only draw in my sketchbook, but try to do an entire piece. I think gouache does the best on distance. The medium doesn't look very nice close up. You can see a lot of brush strokes and lines that sometimes are a little bit messy. I personally am not a fan of that. That could also have to do with my work with Copic markers and illustrating. I'm used to doing very detailed work and very fine work and doing a lot of gradients, but I think this is just not possible for me in this beginner state of using gouache. So what I tried to do with my last artwork is to go for a bigger canvas size to make sure that the artwork can be enjoyed on a little bit of distance. I think if you come up close to the artwork, it shows all the flaws, but if you are further away, it looks cohesive and nice. Doing gradients was one of the hardest things to figure out with gouache. You will have a white color included that is really important for gouache. You can't just water stuff down only. It's not how colors work. I personally feel like you need the white to mix it with some of the other colors to make sure that you get the color you need. In watercolors, I think this is not necessary, but I think in acrylics and gouache, it has to be done. The gouache set already comes with 2 containers of white, which is really nice. So you have a little bit more white and you actually will need it. I try to give it my all with the last artwork, but also try to go for a very, very simple concept. I try to only concentrate on the girl and go for a single colored background. It's maybe not the most interesting idea, it's maybe not the most interesting concept, but it helped me a lot to learn what I'm doing. The place I tried to be most careful with coloring was in the face. The face was the part where I felt I wanted to actually have a gradient, and I need to admit that was also the hardest part to do. Doing cell shading with gouache is fairly easy. You basically pick a medium color, a dark color, and a highlight color, and then you color. But for gradients, it's a little bit different because you have to water down the colors, but also have different color variations to get a good gradient. And I personally feel that I have still a lot to learn when it comes to that. I'm not nearly as comfortable with it as I thought I would be, but I think the end result was the best I could do, and I'm proud of it. As much as I talked about being frustrating using this medium, I do understand that this is a new thing for me, and obviously I have to learn first. And I feel after all that it was very relaxing and very rewarding to finish a whole art piece. I still believe that people should definitely try out this medium, but I do want to say one more time that you should be very patient with yourself. I wasn't, and it can get easily frustrating when you don't understand how the colors work. I would recommend to go for small artworks first, just like me, maybe trying out to see how the colors behave and how much water you want to use, and not start on a big piece that you are very proud of already. And sometimes you have an artwork that you love in the sketching phase, and it would be a shame if you would mess it up by using the colors directly on it and you're figuring out that they are not behaving the way you want them to. I really like that I did this exercise and try to work in my sketchbook first, but I would also say make sure that you know what kind of paper you're using. Because gouache can both be watered down but also be super opaque, I would recommend using a paper that is rather thick, that can both be used for watercolors or acrylics. Please don't use copy paper, it's not gonna hold up, your paper is gonna crinkle. In general, wet mediums on copy paper is a big no-no, and copy paper is for copying stuff, and that's it. As said, this process was a mixture of being super frustrated but also being super proud and relaxed. So it's very interesting thinking about it now where I'm doing my voiceover, how I went into this and thought, oh, this is gonna be such an easy thing and it just looks nice and fun when other people do it, and then figuring out that this is hard, like every new medium of art you pick up. And it's a very humbling experience to see that even if you're good at one medium, you are not necessarily good at the other one. It's still a learning experience. It's still you figuring out how to work around a new material. And as much as it was frustrating, it was also fun. So I would definitely say try to pick up some jelly gouache. I think it is very worth the money, especially for beginners, and I would say go at it, try your best, and maybe even let me know what your experience with jelly gouache is. I would love to hear if you guys already have tried or if you want to try in the future, and also let me know if you have any kind of tips for me in the comments. Maybe I can improve even more by what you guys have to tell me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like the video. Also, please remember to maybe check out my BunBun Kickstarter campaign. I would really appreciate it. I would love to fund this little guy and then get him into production. I hope you liked the video. Give it a like and share and comment and subscribe. And I see you guys for my next video. Thank you so much and bye bye.